So what it came down to was either Gronky Kong or Amir Abdullah Oblongata, and I went with Gronky Kong. Oh, hey students, welcome to class today. We're on Chapter 1, Lesson 3. Today we're learning about planning your research projects. We're going to do a few of them throughout the course of the year, but they won't be too bad. We'll work on them together. So what we talk about today is the first thing is you need a topic, which makes sense. Sometimes you get to choose your own topic. Sometimes it gets chosen for you. Sometimes you even get a couple of options. I remember being in college and given like 5 topics, and I got to choose which one I wanted. And that way, the teacher can keep you on topic, but also give you a little bit of a sense of ownership. It is important when choosing your own topic, when someone's just like, hey, I have a research paper on anything, that you're not too specific or non-specific. You want there to be plenty of information on the topic to work with, but not so much that you are overwhelmed or could not possibly fit it into the paper you need to write. For example, when I was in senior high school, senior typo, back in the ancient times of 2004, the state decided that all graduating seniors needed to do a senior project in order to graduate. My twin brother and my best friend and I, we worked together on a group project, and we told our advisors we were going to do it on World War II, and they said, absolutely not, that's way too broad, and you need to fit this all into a 15-minute presentation. We don't want to sit there for an hour listening to you talk about World War II. So we ended up choosing a specific facet of World War II called Blitzkrieg, which is a much smaller topic, but also a topic with enough to write on, but not overwhelming. So now that you've chosen a topic, theoretically, you need resources. Now, it is advised that you use some good old-fashioned books, not just the magic Google machine. Make sure you use non-fiction books, like with facts. For example, if you were doing a research paper on vampires, you cannot use the Twilight series as resources on vampires. You could use this non-fiction book, seen below, as it is not a corny teenage love story, but a non-fiction book filled with facts and research. We discussed in better detail in the last section about making sure the source is good. Things like looking for bias of the author and his opinion inserted into there. Is it good or bad? And that can damage the information. For your research project, a book written by, say, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan about the Philadelphia Eagles would probably not be a great source of good information on the Eagles. You would probably open it up and say, the Philadelphia Eagles stink. The end. That would be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan writing a book on the Eagles. Just an example. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. Okay, researching the internet. Back in my day, we didn't use the internet for research projects. We used a card catalog, and if you weren't quiet, the librarian would hit you with a stick. Okay, I'm joking. We did have the interwebs by the time I started doing research papers. It was a little slower, but we had it. As such, we needed to know the difference between a good web article and a bad one. You young whippersnappers have grown up on the web, so I'm fairly certain you know a shady site. When you see one, look to see if the article has an author. It's usually a good place to start. And what the author's credentials are. For example, if you read an article on the Mothman, it was written by a 40-year-old guy living in his mom's basement in the hills of West Virginia, it might not be a great source of information. But if you read the article and let's say that guy happens to be a freelance writer for the Associated Press, well then maybe he's a good source. It might be worth looking into the author's credentials, which is proof that they are an expert. For example, I'm a history teacher. What are my credentials? Well, I have a degree in not only teaching, but history. Also, I have a doctorate of awesomeness from GWAT University. You can look it up. More on the internet. The book wants you to know these different URLs. .gov. This is a government website. This info is pretty trustworthy. You usually get data from the government. I think the times I've used government data is usually from census reports. Things like that. It's usually hard data. It's not fun to read. It's pure statistical information. Oftentimes. .edu. This is a school website, like, say, University of Purdue. This information is well researched and accurate, but it could contain opinions. So make sure you're mindful of that if you're looking at an EDU article. .org. These sites are nonprofit organizations. The information is typically accurate, but will possibly be biased toward the cause of the organization. For example, if you're doing a project on unicorns and you go to, unicornsarebeautiful.org, the information will say probably all good things about unicorns and neglect to mention any bad things about unicorns, like they eat children. I'm just kidding. Alright, writing without bias. Before bias, how do you even organize all this information, Mr. Yen? I have 13 books on vampires and 7 web articles, and there's just so much. Well, note cards is a good way to do it, my friends. If you have a book and you go through it looking for some facts and you see one you like, write down which book you got it from, put it in the pile. Work on the next book. Look at what you want, write down some facts, where you got it from, and then you end up with a pile of note cards with all these good facts you wanted to use in your research project, and you can kind of put them in the order in which you want to write about them, and then you really have an outline for your paper. Now, your research project this year, we're in 7th grade world studies, so we're not going to be doing any 5-page reports like you will possibly in college. So you might not need to do that. You might only have like 5 note cards. Nothing crazy. And there'll be plenty of directions for when we do these projects. So don't worry about it. Don't stress. I'll make it as painless as possible. Alright. So there's the note card thing. Let's hit bias real quick again. We want to be professional in our writing, so you need to try and remove your bias. You can never really get rid of all your feelings. It's very hard to take away all your bias. It's usually injected subconsciously. But just make an effort. Give it the good old college try. Also, be sure not to plagiarize anyone. Plagiarizing is a big problem. That's basically when you copy someone else's work and say it is your own. I see it in submitted assignments every year. I'll get a written assignment and I'll see it and I'll go, this is not how so-and-so writes. And then I'll copy and I will paste it into a Google search and I will find that it is copied word for word. And I know they copied and pasted. And then I have to give you a big fat 0 and you don't get any second attempts because that's the PALC's plagiarization policy. So just don't do it. That doesn't mean you can't use information you get from somewhere else. Just don't copy and paste it, and make sure you say where you got it from. If you were filling an assignment on, say, Sam Adams, and you'll say, here's a quote from a website. So-and-so said this about Sam Adams. He was not actually the founder of a brewery, blah, blah, blah. This was my source. Just make sure you don't take anybody else's work and try to use it as your own. And that pretty much covers plagiarism and the end of the topic for the day. Make sure that in addition to reading this lesson here, you read the lesson in the book. It's Chapter 1, Lesson 3. And let's talk about your assignment real quick. See, there's our go button. Let's do it. Okay, so you're going to submit either in a text box or you can submit a document. You're going to answer these 2 questions that are worth of 5 points. Number 1, Rodney is doing a research project on the Loch Ness Monster for Mr. Young's class. He finds a pretty sweet website and copies and pastes a paragraph and drops it right into his paper. He does not cite the source. Is this plagiarism and why? And question 2, what are credentials and why do you think they are an important thing to check? Each question is worth 2 points. 2 points, 2 points with spelling and grammar worth 1 point. So even if you get, both answers correct, but you wrote it in crayon and there's a lot of spelling errors, then you'll probably get 4 out of 5 points. And then that's it for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.